Well, I was born in upstate New York, a town called Hornell. The only reason being is that my father and uncle had a construction company, and they were up there in the midst of a construction project. So after that project was over, my father, who was a World War II Army veteran, took a job with the predecessor to Nassau, and we moved to O'Galley, Florida, which is next to Melbourne. And we stayed there till I was 2 in 1951. My father returned to active duty during the Korean War at the Pentagon. We moved to Falls Church, and the first place I remember living was Falls Church, and I grew up in Fairfax County, went to Fairfax County Public Schools, graduated from Falls Church High School in 1967. Growing up in the rural South, rural Georgia, prior to and during the Depression, they knew hard times, so they were very hardworking, very careful with money. So I think all those aspects rubbed off on me. You wasted nothing, and you saved for the rainy day, and those were important lessons, in addition to the fact that they were scrupulously honest. I would say sometime in maybe 10th, 11th grade, I decided I wanted to be a lawyer and to be a small-town lawyer. I think Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird was certainly a role model of what a good life would be. I went to VMI, Virginia Military Institute, and was in Army ROTC, and so consequently was commissioned, and then had a brief service on active duty in the Army. So I went to work McCownshire Little for 2 years in Fairfax, and then realizing that it was kind of then or never, I applied for and went to Cambridge for a year to do a Master of Law degree. And when I came back, Mr. McCandlish, I think, was convinced I was not serious about practicing law, so he said, "You don't come back." So that's when I hung out a shingle and opened an office in Leesburg. When I came to Leesburg, I made the acquaintance and then the friendship of B. Powell Harrison, who was a VMI graduate. And he immediately took an interest in me, in my career, because of the VMI connection. And right in the late 70s, the effort had started to commission the statue of General George C. Marshall, who of course was a VMI grad. But he recruited me to chair the dedication ceremony when it was erected on the courthouse lawn. So that was really the beginning. He was my mentor, and he was heavily involved in community affairs. As a mentor, he introduced me to and encouraged me to and provided an example for active community life. He was really responsible for launching me in that direction. The first involvement, which I mentioned, was the Marshall statue dedication, which is really a huge event. And we had just a huge parade through downtown Leesburg. I'm not sure we've seen the like of it, but we had the old guard from Fort Myer. It was a big, grand occasion. So that got me launched, and then he recruited me to serve. He, being Powell Harrison, recruited me to serve on the board at Oatlands, and I was on the board there for about 20 years. And one thing led to another. Charles Burden recruited me for the Virginia Piedmont Heritage Area, which was then the Mosby Heritage Area. So I was and been on that board for a while. When General Marshall died in, I believe it was 1957, late 50s when General Marshall died, Mrs. Marshall moved out, and as I think most people know, General Marshall had no children of his own. His first wife, Lily, had died, and he met a widow from Baltimore and married her. So she had children from that marriage, and Molly was her daughter, and she was married to a retired Army colonel Jim Wynn, and they were living in the house. And so when after the general died, Mrs. Marshall moved out, leaving basically all the furniture there. And so the Wynns moved in on top of the general's furniture and Mrs. Marshall's furniture. So the time came when they needed to move on and not live in a big house. And so there was a threat that it was going to be purchased by somebody who wanted to tear it down, put up a shopping center. So Powell Harrison and others were having none of that, so they stepped in, bought it. The house badly needed restoration, and so it was the challenge to see that through. We got some money that had been raised in Europe by Powell Harrison and others, got money from the state of Virginia, we got federal money, we got money from the Board of Supervisors. So putting those things together, the Dodona Manor, as it was known, or as is known, was restored. So it's one of the, I think, one of the crowning jewels, certainly, of Leesburg. Both my boys were in Boy Scouts, so I was active as a scout leader with them. I mean, in the place of helping to instill virtuous characteristics in the young men, the young boys. I mean, that's an indirect way, I believe, of improving Loudoun County. In my scale of values, having ties to a community and roots in a community is important to me. And I think that's one of the things that makes Loudoun unique, and that you have so many people that are willing to fight to protect that rootedness and a sense of place, so it doesn't look or begin to look like in any place USA. And also the sense that not just that have affection for where I live, where I've had my career, where I've reared my children, but just the sense that this really is a special place. Aside from the beauty of the countryside and the charm of the towns and the villages, the truly significant events that happened here. The two most significant things I would describe or relate would be, the tangible would be the restoration of the Marshall home. That's tangible. Intangible, I would say the work of the Virginia Piedmont Heritage Area with educational programs. Not quite as obvious, but when you're reaching 5,000 school children a year, and have been now, so that it's well in excess of 50,000, as well as the programs that we have for adults. That's intangible, but I have to feel like that does help people to value what we have that's so special here. I would want to be remembered by the public or people in the community for having been public-spirited, being someone who tried to help the downtrodden, if you will, and as well as for protecting what was special, or what is special about the Loudoun community, for being good at my profession, and honest and honorable in my conduct. I think those are the things I've tried in my practice from time to time to do what we call pro bono work for people who can't afford legal services. It hasn't all been about protecting historic properties. Being selected to be a Loudoun Laureate is, of course, it is an honor, and I appreciate very much being held in esteem by community leaders and people of achievement in the past who have done things. So I feel very honored that they would think that what I've done justifies my selection to join this august group of people who have lived lives of achievement. So I appreciate having my life being valued by them.